Tonight, as the world around you begins to fade into stillness, we begin to uncover the ancient and shadowed origins of one of the most mysterious brotherhoods in human history, Freemasonry. It begins, like so many of the world's hidden stories, in the mists of half-forgotten time, not with kings and crowns, not even with the grand halls of ancient Europe, but with stone, cold, unyielding stone, and the quiet men who knew its secrets. Long before Freemasonry became the name whispered in taverns and traced in trembling letters across secret papers, there were the stonemasons, builders of cathedrals that seemed to defy gravity, lifting their cold fingers toward heaven. Men who carved temples, castles, and palaces, who understood the silent language of angles and stars, the sacred geometry that shaped both heaven and earth. In the Middle Ages, these craftsmen formed guilds to protect their skills and their mysteries. They spoke in signs and symbols, passed down through whispered lessons, guarded like treasures, not merely for secrecy's sake, but because knowledge, real knowledge, was dangerous. It had to be earned, not given. It had to be protected. But somewhere deep in the folds of the 16th and 17th centuries, something changed. As the great castles crumbled and the age of reason dawned, that lodges opened their doors, not just to working men, but to thinkers, philosophers, nobles, dreamers, men who sought not to build with stone, but to build with ideas. Speculative masonry, they called it, a brotherhood not of labourers, but of seekers. And with this change, the lodges became something else entirely, a place where ancient symbols hid newer meanings, where the tools of the mason, the compass, the square, the plumb line, became metaphors for inner balance, moral law, and divine truth, where secret words were spoken under solemn oaths, and new mysteries were born in the flicker of candle flames. Why did Freemasonry emerge from the stonemasons' dust into a shadowy world of ritual and secrecy? Some say it was to preserve the ancient knowledge, echoes of Egypt, Babylon, and lost civilizations, hidden safely away from a church that once burned men for daring to think beyond prescribed dogma. Others whisper that it was for power, a secret network built not for charity but for influence, hidden beneath the polite veil of fraternity, a network that could cross borders, defy kings, and speak in silent code when the world above raged with chaos. The first Grand Lodge, officially founded in London in 17, marked the beginning of something the world had never seen before, a secret society operating in plain sight. Rituals cloaked in symbolism, hierarchies that echoed old initiatory mysteries, a world within a world. But even before that moment, traces of Freemasonry can be found in the Rosicrucian manifestos of the 1600s, whispering of invisible colleges and hidden brotherhoods working silently for a secret enlightenment. Names lost to history, meetings held in forests under the waxing moon, hands raised in ancient signs, no banners, no armies, just knowledge, passed mouth to ear, symbol to soul. Some believe that the earliest Freemasons saw themselves as guardians of sacred truths, hidden knowledge that stretched back to Solomon's temple and even further to the mysteries of ancient Egypt. In the faint candlelight of their rituals, they reenacted allegories of death and resurrection, of lost wisdom and hidden light. The lost word became a central obsession, a secret so sacred that to utter it without proper initiation was unthinkable. Legends say it was the true name of God, whispered once at the creation of the universe, and that whoever knew it could unlock secrets beyond imagining. Others hint it was a cipher for enlightenment itself, a way of seeing the world hidden to ordinary eyes. And yet, no secret stays buried without a price. In testimonies whispered through history, in the private confessions of men who left the lodges in fear, darker tales emerge. Stories of punishments for those who betrayed their oaths, warnings that the penalties were not metaphorical. In early Freemasonry rituals, initiates were made to swear oaths upon pain of dismemberment. Their tongues torn out, their bodies buried where the tide ebbs and flows, should they reveal the secrets entrusted to them. Today, these oaths are often claimed to be symbolic, but once they were taken with a gravity that chilled the blood. Inside the lodges, the rituals themselves were cloaked in deep mystery. The initiate was blindfolded, led by a rope called a cable tow, wrapped around his neck like a noose, a symbol of his spiritual death before rebirth. He was made to kneel at an altar with a dagger or sword pressed to his bare chest before swearing his solemn vows. 3 knocks would sound upon the door, 3 distinct raps echoing into the night, and he would be led through a journey of darkness, through allegories of ancient kings and sacred builders, until he emerged into the symbolic light of wisdom, forever changed. The tools of their craft, level, trowel, mallet, were no longer merely instruments of stone. Each carried a secret meaning, the leveling of human pride, the spreading of brotherly love, the building of the self into a spiritual temple. And yet, behind the gentle words, a deeper current flowed. In some rites, the initiate was warned he would be watched, that the brotherhood's eyes were everywhere, that to betray the secrets was not merely to face shame, but to risk his very life. Over time, tales of darker powers seeped into public fears, whispers of hidden worship, of secret masters known only to the highest degrees, of blood oaths sealed under flickering candles, and of a great architect of the universe whose identity, some feared, was not the god of the churches, but an older, more secret being. A few defectors, rare and often shrouded in scandal, spoke of inner circles within circles, that beyond the public charity work and the brotherly smiles, there were deeper levels invisible to most members. Levels where knowledge, real knowledge, could be dangerous to the soul. But most would never see those inner chambers. Most would remain forever on the outer edges, content with the stories, the camaraderie, the sense of belonging. Only a few dared venture deeper, and fewer still returned unchanged. The night deepens, the veil thins, and the story has only just begun. The deeper one drifts into the world behind the lodge doors, the more the warmth of brotherhood begins to feel uncanny. At first, the world of Freemasonry seems welcoming beyond reason. Men are embraced with open arms, praised for qualities they didn't even know they had. Their worries are soothed, their doubts brushed away. This is the first secret, love bombing, the overwhelming flood of acceptance that binds the soul before the mind can think to resist. It feels like coming home, but behind the smiles the binding begins. The ritual of initiation is not what the world imagines, not a simple handshake and a club membership. It is a carefully crafted psychological journey. The initiate is blindfolded, a rope tied around his neck, leading him forward like an animal to sacrifice. Barefoot with one breast exposed, he is made to kneel at an unseen altar. A dagger, or sometimes a sharp instrument, is pressed lightly to his heart. And here, alone in the dark, he is sworn to terrible oaths. Oaths that pledge his loyalty to the brotherhood above all else. He swears to have his throat slit from ear to ear if he ever reveals the secrets, to have his heart torn from his chest, his body burned to ashes, should he betray the craft. The language is old, the penalties described as symbolic, but one cannot help but feel the weight of ancient fear pressing in the room. Behind these rites, there lingers the whisper of darker things, multiple testimonies, sometimes given in anonymity, sometimes in trembling confession, tell of secret inner circles within the lodges. Ordinary members, the ones drawn in with promises of fraternity and self-improvement, never glimpse them. But those who rise through the degrees slowly, step by step, are drawn into a more chilling underworld. There are higher degrees beyond the basic ranks, and in these secret gatherings, symbols become sharper, darker. In the Royal Arch degree, for example, the initiate learns a hidden name, said to be a secret composite word for God. But some ex-members, those brave enough to speak, hint that the God worshipped is not the God of the Bible. They speak in hushed tones of Jabulon, a composite name drawn from different ancient deities. Jah from Jehovah, Bull from Baal, the ancient Canaanite god linked to blood sacrifice, and On from Osiris, the Egyptian lord of the underworld. A strange trinity, neither holy nor benign. And so the question lingers. When they pray in their rituals, whose ear is truly listening? There are older allegations too. Long-standing suspicions that some lodges, particularly those isolated from outside eyes, performed mock sacrifices or, according to the darker testimonies, real ones. Animals first, small animals whose blood would stain the stones. Then, as the bonds of secrecy deepened, rumors of more terrible offerings. Some defectors from the higher degrees claimed that symbolic acts, mock executions, reenactments of death became more real in secret ceremonies. Blood spilled under flickering candles, names spoken backwards, invocations that no outsider would recognize as prayers. Even among those who rose no higher than the third degree, the so-called Master Masons, there were signs that something was not as it seemed. Rituals reenacting the death of Hiram Abiff, the mythic architect, involved symbolic murder and resurrection. In shadowy chambers, men struck the blindfolded candidate with blows to the head, the neck, the chest, in imitation of the ruffians who killed Hiram. Then, raising him up by a secret grip, they proclaimed him reborn. A strange play acting, surely. And yet, in ritual magic, as in ancient religion, symbolic acts are not empty. They are invitations. And what exactly were they inviting? Those who leave, and few truly leave unscarred, speak of the ways a lodge binds the mind, the endless reinforcement of loyalty, the constant reminders that secrets must be kept for the good of all, the slow replacement of outside morality with the will of the brotherhood. Family, religion, personal conscience, all gently, quietly made second to the lodge. Should a man hesitate? Should he falter or refuse? At first, the gentle hand, concerned brothers offering counsel, warm smiles, a hand on the shoulder. If he continues, the hand tightens. Business opportunities dry up. Friends withdraw without explanation. Reputations sour like spoiled milk, for reasons no one will clearly explain. And for those rare few who dare to speak publicly, who dare to expose the rites, the names, the symbols, the warnings come swiftly, anonymous letters, unexpected accidents, or a cold, creeping fear that seems to follow wherever they walk at night. It is no idle threat. History holds too many stories of whistleblowers who vanished from public life, their testimonies unfinished. Beneath the layers of charity and benevolence lies a world of oaths and unseen eyes, a world where truth is a dangerous burden and silence is survival. Freemasonry, for all its talk of light, wraps itself in shadow. At every degree, they say, more light is given. But the deeper one goes, the darker that light becomes. And as we draw closer to their inner sanctums, the questions grow sharper. What rituals unfold beneath the veiled ceilings? What ancient signs pass silently from hand to hand, binding men together in secret loyalties no outsider could see? The night grows heavier now. The doors ahead creak open just a little, and through that crack we catch a glimpse of what lies beyond. Strange handshakes, hidden symbols, mysterious invocations whispered in the dim candlelight. In our next steps together, we will slip deeper into that silence, into the rituals they never meant for the world to see. And so, with the slow turning of time's wheel, we find ourselves drawn deeper still, past the solemn oaths in candle-lit chambers, past the unseen boundaries that separate the initiated from the ordinary world. For within these guarded walls, rituals unfold, rituals that, though hidden behind benevolent smiles and charitable gestures, echo with a much older, much stranger resonance. To the casual eye, the Freemasons present themselves as guardians of virtue and wisdom, yet those who have peered deeper, former members, historians, and researchers, whisper of ceremonies that are far more intricate and far more unsettling than what is offered to public view. At the heart of these mysteries stand the symbols, ancient shapes and tools, deceptively simple yet heavy with layered meaning. The square and compass, so often stitched onto jackets or engraved onto cornerstones, are more than mere emblems of craftsmanship. The square is said to symbolize morality, the ability to keep one's actions aligned with virtue. The compass represents spiritual boundaries, drawing a circle around one's passions and keeping desires contained. But there are darker whispers too, that together these instruments secretly represent the fusion of opposing forces, the earthly and the divine, the masculine and the feminine, the material and the spiritual, a secret balancing act older than the Masons themselves, and nestled between them, often overlooked, lies the letter G. Officially, it stands for God or geometry, but interpretations diverge. Some insiders claim it secretly honors the great architect of the universe, an ambiguous figure that could align with any number of deities or darker powers. Others murmur that the G masks a hidden reference to gnosis, the ancient pursuit of secret knowledge, a path once tread by mystics and heretics alike. Initiations into these mysteries are not simple handshakes and pledges. According to testimonies, both historical and modern, the first degrees of Masonry require the initiate to be blindfolded, called a hoodwink, symbolizing ignorance. A noose, the cable toe, is placed around the neck, symbolizing the umbilical cord, and the initiate is led through ritual steps that mimic death and rebirth. Under the watchful eyes of the senior members, he is made to kneel before an altar, place his hand upon a sacred text, often the Bible, but sometimes other books depending on the lodge, and swear never to reveal the secrets he is about to learn under the penalty of gruesome death. The oaths are chilling in their specificity. One traditional vow, echoed in lodges for centuries, warns the initiate that if he betrays the brotherhood, his tongue shall be torn out by its roots and buried in the rough sands of the sea. In higher degrees, penalties grow even more grotesque. Disembowelment, the severing of limbs, the scattering of remains to the four winds. All of this cloaked behind the smiling face of fraternity. As for the rituals themselves, former Masons have recounted scenes almost theatrical in their symbolism. candidates are made to simulate a journey through darkness and confusion before reaching the light. Secret passwords, strange, ancient-sounding words like Boaz, Jachin, Tubal-Cain, and Mahaboine must be memorized. Handshakes and grips, precise ways of pressing fingers and hands, are taught to silently identify one brother to another. Signs, gestures made with the hands, arms, or even the body allow Masons to signal distress or request aid in public without speaking a word. But perhaps most unsettling are the ceremonies alleged to take place beyond the public degrees, within the shadows of the higher orders. Some accounts, whispered and contested, tell of rooms without windows where more esoteric rites unfold, invocations of unseen forces, mock executions meant to symbolize death to the profane world, and strange reenactments where the initiate plays the role of Hiram Abiff, the martyred builder of Solomon's temple, struck down and resurrected in allegorical death, and over it all hangs the question, whom exactly are they worshipping? Most Masons would swear they serve the God of all men, a benevolent architect of the universe. Yet in the old writings, strange names surface. Jabalon, a composite deity whose syllables blend the Hebrew Yahweh, the Babylonian Baal, and the Egyptian On or Osiris. Critics have long pointed to this as evidence that Masonry venerates not the God of the Bible, but a syncretic, occult entity hidden behind layers of symbolic language. In darker corners of Masonic lore, some conspiracy theorists, and a few regretful initiates, have claimed that the ceremonies are, consciously or not, a form of veiled Luciferianism, that the light so earnestly sought by the brothers is not merely knowledge, but the light bringer himself, the bearer of forbidden wisdom once cast down from heaven. Sacrifices? Officially, there are none, yet stories persist of animal blood used in older, now discarded rites, of symbolic deaths enacted with real emotional intensity, and of subtle manipulations where a brother's loyalty is tested again and again until he proves he is willing to place the lodge above family, faith, or even conscience. And what happens when someone wishes to leave? Here too, the smiling mask slips. Those who have tried to walk away, particularly after reaching higher degrees, speak of quiet threats, social ruin, or worse, of being shadowed by brothers who suddenly grow cold, of losing jobs, reputations, connections, of a brotherhood that extends invisible tendrils into every court, office, and temple. All of this wrapped in velvet, spoken with polite words, never leaving a mark, but chilling all the same. And still countless men line up year after year, eager to step into the lodge, drawn by promises of wisdom, of brotherhood, of secrets just beyond their reach, unaware, or perhaps only half aware, that the true cost of entry may not be paid in money or deeds, but in something far more precious, their very soul. In the next breath, the tale continues, for the signs and the symbols once noticed are everywhere, hiding in plain sight, watching, waiting, speaking to those who know the language of the hidden world. Let us walk onward now, deeper still. The night is long and the secrets are many. And so, we move further like travelers along an ancient and forgotten road. A road marked not by stones or signposts, but by symbols. Silent, ageless markers left by unseen hands. For the language of Freemasonry is not merely spoken aloud. It is carved into marble, stitched into cloth, whispered through silent gestures. It is a language of signs, subtle, persistent, hiding in plain sight, even in the daylight world. Consider again the square and compass, resting above so many doors and rings. They are tools, yes, and also metaphors. The square to remind the initiate to act with virtue, the compass to teach restraint, keeping passions and secrets within bounds. Yet to those who study older traditions, these tools are mirrors, reflecting an alchemical truth that matter and spirit must be perfectly balanced, shaped and constrained like a hidden fire within. And then there is the all-seeing eye, the eye of providence peering out from above the unfinished pyramid. A single eye, hovering in a radiant triangle, its gaze unblinking. You have seen it, of course, staring from your dollar bills, from paintings, from forgotten monuments. Officially, it represents divine watchfulness, the benevolent gaze of the great architect. But to others, it carries a more unsettling implication: surveillance, omnipresence, control. The eye that sees all, judges all, and does not forgive. Whispers from former Masons describe how these symbols are introduced gradually, not with bold declarations, but through slow, repeated exposure, first as quaint traditions, then as profound lessons, and finally for those who ascend higher as a map toward a hidden inner reality. The pyramid, too, bears meaning. Incomplete, unfinished, it hints at humanity's ongoing struggle toward enlightenment, or, as some darker interpretations suggest, toward a dominion not yet realized, a power structure missing its capstone, awaiting the final piece to be laid by unseen hands. Then there are the secret handshakes, known as grips. They are precise. Fingers pressed in just the right place, the slightest pressure in the web of the thumb, or a subtle tug at the knuckle. Each degree within Freemasonry carries its own handshake, a coded greeting that signals one's level of initiation. Outwardly innocent, inwardly powerful. For a handshake given at the right time to the right man might open doors closed to all others. The signs, hand gestures, made during rituals or sometimes in public, follow a similar pattern. There is the sign of the Master Mason, where one places the hand upon the chest in a certain way, or the penal sign, where the motion mimics the act of drawing a blade across the throat. A grim reminder of the oath sworn never to betray the secrets. In testimony after testimony, former Masons describe how these signs were more than ceremonial. In courtrooms, on the battlefield, in politics, a single gesture could signal for mercy, for aid, for protection. An invisible brotherhood, reaching hands across every divide, and through it all, the letters and numbers weave their quiet magic. Numbers like 3, 5, 7. Sacred within Masonic teaching. 3 pillars representing wisdom, strength, and beauty. 5 points of fellowship whispered during sacred embraces. 7 steps ascending to the middle chamber, the place where true knowledge is kept. And the letters? Think of the strange, archaic passwords whispered across the centuries. Boaz and Yachin. The names of the twin pillars said to guard the entrance of Solomon's temple. Tubal-Cain, the first artificer of metals, a figure whose name became a secret identifier among brothers. Even the layout of Masonic lodges is coded. They are said to be oriented east to west, like the course of the sun, drawing upon ancient sun worship traditions. The lodge itself represents Solomon's temple, or, in a darker sense, a reconstruction of ancient pagan mysteries hidden under layers of biblical metaphor. But perhaps the most chilling symbols are not drawn or spoken. They are lived. It is said among Masons that one must die before he can live. Thus the elaborate ceremonies of symbolic death, the hoodwinking, the binding, the blind stumbling toward the light. To die to one's old self and be reborn into the craft. Yet, Rebirth into what exactly? Some believe it is rebirth into enlightenment, the pursuit of truth beyond dogma. Others fear it is a rebirth into service to a hidden power, bound by blood oath and silent compliance, answering not to nation or faith, but to the brotherhood alone. There are, too, the darker rumours, whispers from those who fled the craft, who speak of secret rituals mimicking ancient rites where symbols of death and resurrection mirror not the Christian resurrection, but older, bloodier cycles of sacrifice and renewal. And while modern Freemasonry loudly condemns such accusations, the weight of history and the persistence of the whispers lingers. In the cool stillness of the night, one cannot help but wonder. When a man dons the apron, grips the compass and square, kneels at the altar and swears his soul to silence, is he joining a brotherhood of wisdom, or stepping willingly into a pact he does not yet understand? And if the truth is hidden behind symbols, gestures, and coded words, who among us could ever truly know? The road grows darker now. The symbols flicker like distant lanterns ahead, guiding our way into still deeper mysteries. Come closer. There are yet more secrets to tell. As the night deepens and the shadows stretch longer, we venture further still into the mysteries that lie hidden in the folds of history, where whispers of darker forces stir beneath the surface. Beneath the polished exterior of Freemasonry, a question lingers in the air, unspoken yet impossible to ignore. Is there something more to the fraternity than the public face it presents to the world? Is Freemasonry, as some suggest, deeply intertwined with the occult? Many who have crossed the threshold of the lodge claim to have felt something unearthly, an energy, perhaps, or a presence that permeates the very walls of Masonic halls. It is not merely the weight of tradition or the gravitas of secrecy, but something else, something older, something darker. To truly understand the connection between Freemasonry and the occult, one must first recognize that the very roots of Freemasonry are intertwined with ancient esoteric traditions. Long before the Masons wore their regalia and chanted their oaths, secret societies dedicated to hidden knowledge and spiritual enlightenment flourished across the ancient world. The Egyptian mysteries, the Hermetic teachings, and the Rosicrucian ideals all influenced the creation of what we know as Freemasonry today. Indeed, the symbolism that permeates Masonic rituals is steeped in occult practices. The square and compass, so iconic, represent not only moral guidance but also the balancing of earthly and divine forces. The G in the center, which many believe represents God, also has ties to gnosis, the mystical knowledge that one seeks to unlock through hidden teachings. It is no accident that these symbols are also prominent in other occult traditions. Masonic teachings, according to insiders and former members, delve deep into the realm of spiritual alchemy, esoteric philosophy, and mysticism. The lodge itself, one might say, is a microcosm of the occult world, a place where men come together to unlock hidden truths about the universe, existence, and the divine. But these truths, once revealed, often point toward a reality that many are reluctant to confront. That the mysteries of Freemasonry are not simply concerned with good or morality, but with much darker forces. It is in the higher degrees of Freemasonry, where the veil is truly lifted, that things take a darker turn. Testimonies from former Masons, those brave enough to speak of their experiences, describe rituals that border on the occult in every sense of the word. Initiates, once they have advanced to these upper echelons, engage in rites that invoke hidden forces, spiritual entities, and in some cases demonic presences. A once secret ceremony known as the Royal Arch is said to involve ritualistic invocations of archangels and other spiritual beings. The initiate is placed in a symbolic tomb representing the death of their former self and their rebirth into a higher understanding. But what they are reborn into may not be so benign. According to those who have left the order, these ceremonies are said to involve intense psychological manipulation and the unleashing of occult energies, creating an emotional and spiritual bond between the initiate and whatever powers they have called upon. Among the many mysteries of the upper degrees lies the mystical figure of the Great Architect. While the official doctrine maintains that the Great Architect is a benevolent, guiding force, some believe this figure is merely a cover for something far darker, an ancient godlike being that has its origins not in light, but in the shadow. To those who believe in the occult aspects of Freemasonry, the Great Architect may not be God, but an entity that exists between realms, whose power draws from both creation and destruction. As Freemasons advance in their journey, they find themselves participating in rites that involve symbolic deaths and rebirths, much like the ancient rites of Osiris in Egypt or the mysteries of Dionysus in Greece. The repetition of these rituals, with their death and resurrection themes, evokes an ancient occult tradition that deals with the transformation of the self, but not always in a way that can be easily understood or classified as purely spiritual. In one of the most disturbing aspects of Masonic ritual, higher degree initiates are sometimes said to be involved in ceremonial reenactments of dark rites, which some claim are intended to awaken latent powers or summon supernatural forces. These ceremonies are said to be conducted with such fervor that those present believe they are truly engaging with otherworldly entities. The experience can be profoundly altering. Some former members report that the energies invoked during these rites leave permanent marks on their psyche. Animal sacrifice is an issue that has also long been whispered about in Masonic circles. While Freemasons officially deny any such practices, there are countless rumors and allegations from former members who claim to have witnessed or even been forced to participate in rituals that involve the blood of animals. These rites, which were allegedly more common in older, more secretive lodges, are believed by some to have been performed to gain spiritual power or to placate dark forces. At the heart of these practices lies a disturbing question: who are the Masons truly serving? Officially, they serve the Great Architect, a neutral figure whose intent is to guide humanity toward truth and moral enlightenment. But in the shadowy corners of the lodge, there are those who whisper that the true divinity worshipped is something far more insidious. Perhaps a being that straddles the line between good and evil, pulling the strings behind the scenes of human history. In conclusion, the connection between Freemasonry and the occult is a tangled web of ritual, belief, and mysticism. Officially, Freemasons are men of virtue and brotherhood. But within the lodge, behind the smiles and the handshakes, there exists an undercurrent of darker forces. Forces that have been hidden for centuries, waiting for the right moment to be fully revealed. The deeper one peers into the heart of Freemasonry, the more uncertain the path becomes. Is it simply an innocent fraternity, or is there something more? Something otherworldly that drives the men who enter the lodge, seeking secrets that may be better left untouched? As we continue this journey through the night, one truth becomes increasingly clear. The world of Freemasonry is one that lives not only in the physical world, but in the spiritual and occult realms as well, entwining both the seen and the unseen. The secrets it guards are not just about architecture, knowledge, or philosophy. They are about something much deeper, something that may be better left undisturbed. Let us proceed with caution. For the next step takes us deeper still into the enigmatic and secretive world of the Freemasons. Freemasonry and religion, a complex relationship. As we delve deeper into the heart of Freemasonry, we are drawn to one of its most intricate and often debated aspects, its relationship with religion. On the surface, Freemasonry presents itself as a fraternity that embraces individuals of all faiths, united under the banner of a shared belief in a higher power. This universal concept of a great architect of the universe provides a common ground for Masons of different religious backgrounds, whether Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or otherwise. But beneath this seemingly inclusive surface lies a tension, a subtle undercurrent that hints at a much more complex and sometimes contradictory dynamic. Freemasonry, with its ancient and esoteric traditions, has long been associated with a particular set of spiritual beliefs and practices. The rituals, steeped in symbolism, are not merely about fellowship. They are designed to provoke deep, often mystical contemplation. Masons are encouraged to seek a personal understanding of divinity, a journey that may lead them down paths of spiritual enlightenment or, in some cases, spiritual conflict. For while Freemasonry claims to honor the diversity of religious beliefs, it is not always clear where the line is drawn between a universal spirituality and the particular religious doctrines that guide individual lives. At the core of this tension lies the idea of the great architect. For Freemasons, the great architect is a transcendent force, often symbolized as a divine creator or guiding principle. Yet, within this concept, there is room for interpretation. For some, the great architect represents a godlike figure akin to the Christian notion of the creator. For others, it may signify a more abstract or impersonal force, something beyond traditional religious understandings. This fluidity leaves open the possibility for interpretations that some would argue veer too far from the established tenets of mainstream religions. This openness to personal interpretation can be both a strength and a source of tension. Many Masons proudly declare that Freemasonry encourages the free exercise of faith, welcoming individuals of all religious backgrounds into its fold. And yet, this inclusivity can feel uncomfortable to those who hold a more rigid view of religion. For example, the Christian faith, with its doctrines and teachings centered on a singular, personal God, may sometimes find itself at odds with the more pluralistic or mystical elements of Freemasonry. This dissonance has led to periodic clashes throughout history, with some religious leaders condemning Freemasonry as a threat to the true faith. One of the most prominent examples of this tension is the Catholic Church's long-standing opposition to Freemasonry. The Vatican has issued numerous papal decrees forbidding Catholics from joining the Masonic fraternity, citing concerns over the secretive nature of the order and its perceived rejection of the authority of the Church. The Church argues that Freemasonry's emphasis on personal spiritual discovery and its rejection of specific religious dogma undermine the foundational principles of Catholicism. The Catholic position maintains that Freemasonry's belief in a generic great architect conflicts with the exclusive divinity of God as understood in Christian theology. This conflict is not limited to Catholicism alone. Protestant denominations, too, have expressed reservations about Freemasonry, with some accusing the fraternity of promoting a form of spiritual relativism that undermines the Christian faith. Even within the Jewish community, there are mixed feelings about the compatibility of Freemasonry with Jewish teachings, though many Jewish Masons argue that the fraternity's focus on moral and ethical development aligns with Jewish values. Despite these religious challenges, Freemasonry continues to attract members from a wide range of faiths. This speaks to the allure of its rituals, its promises of personal growth, and the camaraderie it offers. But as Masons climb the ranks and engage with the deeper, more mystical aspects of the order, some encounter a spiritual landscape that can be unsettling. Initiates are exposed to a wealth of esoteric knowledge, some of which seems to go beyond the boundaries of conventional religious belief. The deeper one goes, the more the lines between spiritual enlightenment and occult practices blur, leading some Masons to question whether their pursuit of wisdom has brought them closer to the divine or drawn them into something altogether darker. The intricate rituals and symbols of Freemasonry are often regarded as a reflection of its deeper spiritual truths. But for many, these same symbols, the all-seeing eye, the pillars, the pyramid, the square and compass, are redolent of ancient arcane knowledge that carries with it the shadow of occult traditions. Whether consciously or unconsciously, these symbols evoke associations with secret societies, ancient religions, and mystical rites that challenge the boundaries of mainstream religious thought. It is not just the symbols that evoke this tension, but the very nature of Masonic rituals. Initiates are subjected to rites of passage that often include oaths of secrecy, symbolic deaths, and rebirths, and encounters with the unknown. These rites are designed to initiate the Mason into deeper levels of knowledge, but they also serve to create a sense of detachment from the outside world, including the religious institutions that may have guided the initiate's earlier life. In some Masonic circles, this detachment from organized religion is seen as a necessary step towards spiritual freedom. The idea is that by freeing oneself from the constraints of conventional religious dogma, a Mason is able to experience a more direct, personal connection with the divine. But for others, this perceived detachment can be seen as a form of spiritual rebellion, a rejection of the traditional religious frameworks that have provided meaning and purpose for centuries. In conclusion, the relationship between Freemasonry and religion is a deeply complex and layered one. On the surface, Freemasonry is a brotherhood that embraces all faiths and seeks to promote moral and ethical development. But beneath the surface, the tension between its mystical teachings and the doctrines of established religions continues to create ripples of controversy. For some, Freemasonry offers a path to spiritual enlightenment, while for others, it represents a dangerous departure from the true faith. As we continue our journey into the heart of Freemasonry, we are reminded that the deeper one delves, the more questions arise. Is Freemasonry a force for spiritual enlightenment, or is it a hidden agenda that seeks to manipulate and control the spiritual beliefs of its members? The answer may lie in the shadows, where the boundaries between religion, mysticism, and the occult are forever shifting. Let us proceed with care, for we are standing on the threshold of a world where the sacred and the secret intertwine. As we delve even deeper into the shadows of Freemasonry, we find ourselves stumbling into a labyrinth of theories, accusations, and whispered secrets. It's a world where nothing is as it seems, and everything carries the weight of centuries of concealed knowledge. For some, Freemasonry is nothing more than a secret club, a fraternal order where members help each other out, guiding their path to success in a tightly knit network of influence. But for others, Freemasonry is the very foundation of a dark, hidden conspiracy, a secret society responsible for controlling the destiny of nations. One theory that continually rises to the surface in discussions of Freemasonry's true purpose is its connection to the infamous Illuminati, an organization that is said to be the real force behind the curtain of history. The very name Illuminati evokes images of shadowy figures plotting in the dark recesses of society, pulling the strings of governments, businesses, and media. Whether it's the storming of the Bastille during the French Revolution, the shaping of the American Revolution, or the formation of world banking systems, The Illuminati is said to have its hand in every significant event that's ever occurred. The theory goes that the Illuminati's real power lies not in its public face, but in the deep, hidden alliances it has with various organizations, including Freemasonry. But what makes this theory so unnerving is not just the Illuminati itself, but the conspiracy theories surrounding it. Many believe that Freemasons, along with other secret societies, are the backbone of these hidden cabals, quietly orchestrating the global order in ways most of us will never understand. It's easy to dismiss these theories as nothing more than paranoia. But what if the truth is far stranger than fiction? As we step into the heart of these secret worlds, the question begins to emerge: are Freemasons truly just an innocent group of men seeking self-improvement, or do they have a deeper, darker agenda? The more we peel back the layers, the more unsettling the answers become. Some theorists claim that Freemasons are the architects of the New World Order, a totalitarian global government designed to control the entire planet under one unified system. The very name evokes fear and suspicion, promising a world where the individual is insignificant and the collective is controlled by an unseen elite. Whether through economic manipulation, political subversion, or media control, some believe Freemasonry's true aim is to create a new world order, one where only the powerful few hold all the cards. To understand these chilling beliefs, we must look at the rituals and symbols that pervade Freemasonry. Why are these men so secretive about their meetings, their symbols, their handshakes, and their oaths? Why do they swear to protect each other above all else? Could it be that these oaths are more than just symbolic and that the stakes are higher than we imagine? Perhaps the most chilling claim made by conspiracy theorists is the idea that the Freemasons, along with other secret societies, do not just operate in the shadows of power, but actively seek to bring about societal change through subversion and influence. According to some, these men are not just well connected, they are agents of a much larger global movement. A movement that seeks to reshape society, culture, and even religion to serve their unseen purpose. One of the most eerie and dangerous beliefs surrounding Freemasonry is that the organization is not just about power, but about control over the minds of its members. Imagine being so thoroughly manipulated that every aspect of your life, your family, your career, your relationships, is influenced by the unseen hand of the fraternity. Imagine for a moment that you have sworn oaths of silence and secrecy, binding yourself to a brotherhood that dictates your every action and thought. What would you do if you ever tried to break free from that grip? According to some testimonies, the consequences can be dire. Those who have tried to break away or reveal the secrets of Freemasonry have often been met with harassment, intimidation, or worse. The punishments for speaking out or turning away from the brotherhood are said to range from social ostracism to financial ruin, to even more sinister repercussions. Some claim that former members who dared to speak the truth about Freemasonry have had their lives ruined by mysterious forces, sometimes even leading to tragic, untimely deaths. But what makes these allegations so difficult to verify is the systematic cover-up that surrounds these organizations. Those who claim to know the truth about Freemasonry often find themselves silenced in one way or another. The very nature of these societies makes it almost impossible to break through the veil of secrecy and uncover what's really going on behind closed doors. And so, the questions linger. What if there really is an elite cabal of Freemasons, Illuminati, and other secret organizations, quietly guiding humanity down a dark and dangerous path? What if they are the true architects of the global society we live in today, manipulating the world behind the scenes for their own gain. As we move further into this web of secrets, it's clear that there is much more to Freemasonry than meets the eye. Some would argue that the real conspiracy is not just about what Freemasons do, but about what they're hiding. What are they really planning, and what is their ultimate goal? The deeper we go into these stories, the more it seems that we may never fully understand the true scope of Freemasonry's power, influence, and secrets. But perhaps that's exactly what they want. Now, as we begin to trace the shadows of Freemasonry, we move from the hidden world of secret rituals and whispered theories to something more tangible. The undeniable influence these societies have had on the course of human history. The question begins to emerge: who are the men behind the masks? Freemasonry is not only a secretive organization with arcane symbols and cryptic rituals, it is also a breeding ground for power, a place where some of the most influential men in history have found camaraderie, inspiration, and opportunities to steer the world in directions only they can imagine. And when we look at these men, we see a stunning pattern of individuals who have left their mark on politics, art, and science, shaping the very fabric of modern civilization. One of the most shocking revelations is the sheer number of influential figures who have been Freemasons. Men who have wielded tremendous power and shaped the future in ways that ripple through time. These are not small-time players, but those whose names are etched in the annals of history, whose decisions and creations have had a profound impact on the world. In politics, we find that many of the founding fathers of the United States were Freemasons, men who laid the cornerstone of what would become a superpower. George Washington, the very first president, was a master Mason. He took his oaths and practiced the rituals, and even in his personal letters, there are hints of the Brotherhood's influence over his actions. Benjamin Franklin, another pivotal figure in American history, was also a Freemason, deeply involved in the Masonic lodges of Philadelphia. In fact, Franklin's diplomatic successes in Europe and his contributions to the formation of the United States have been credited in part to his Masonic connections, allowing him to gain favor and access to powerful men across the globe. It's not just the early American leaders who were influenced by Freemasonry, though. Freemasons have left their mark on political power structures all over the world. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister who led his country through the dark days of World War II, was also a Freemason. His decisions during the war and the very survival of Britain during those dark times can be viewed through the lens of the secretive brotherhood he belonged to. Across the Atlantic, in France, Voltaire and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, two of the most famous philosophers of the Enlightenment, were also members of Masonic lodges. It is said that their ideas about liberty, equality, and fraternity, which would later influence the French Revolution, were deeply shaped by Masonic ideals. Freemasonry played a quiet but critical role in the revolution itself, as the lodges acted as meeting grounds for revolutionaries and intellectuals who sought to upend the monarchy and reshape the future of France. But it's not just in politics where the Masons have made their mark. In the world of art and culture, Freemasonry has also left a deep imprint. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the composer whose music still resonates in the hearts of millions, was a committed Freemason. His symphonies, operas, and compositions are said to be filled with a Masonic symbolism. From the magic flute, which is riddled with Masonic themes, to the music itself, which some claim contains hidden meanings only those initiated into the Brotherhood would understand. For Mozart, the world of music and Freemasonry were intertwined, and many of his most famous works seem to be steeped in the secrets of the lodge. Even in the world of science, we see the fingerprints of Freemasonry all over the great discoveries of modernity. Isaac Newton, the father of modern physics and one of the most brilliant minds in history, was a Freemason. His theories on gravity and the laws of motion are foundational to our understanding of the universe, and his work laid the groundwork for the scientific revolution that would follow. Yet, some claim that Newton's deep interest in alchemy and the occult was shaped by his ties to the Masonic traditions, with their roots in esoteric knowledge and secret wisdom. Newton himself was a member of the Royal Society, an organization that has long been associated with Freemasonry, and some say that his ideas were influenced by the alchemical symbols and metaphysical teachings prevalent in Masonic circles. As we move through history, the same pattern emerges again and again. Freemasons have been among the most influential figures, shaping political landscapes, driving scientific discovery, and influencing the very fabric of culture and society. Whether through their shared rituals, their mutual ideals, or the simple fact that they were part of a powerful brotherhood, these men had an impact on the world that continues to this day. Yet, as we look closer, the question arises, why do these men, many of whom have reached the pinnacle of human achievement, remain tied to an organization so shrouded in secrecy? What is it about Freemasonry that draws such powerful individuals into its fold? Is it the bonds of brotherhood, the shared ideals of enlightenment and progress, or is there something more? Some would say that these men, these giants of history, were not just seeking enlightenment or knowledge. They were seeking power, innate power that could change the world in ways we are still trying to understand. And what better way to wield that power than to be part of a network that operates behind closed doors, where secrets are exchanged and allegiances are forged in silence. As we look to the future, the legacy of these famous Freemasons will continue to shape the world in ways we may never fully comprehend. The true influence of these men may be far more than we could ever imagine. But as we delve deeper into the secretive world of Freemasonry, one thing becomes clear. The brotherhood is not just about personal advancement, it is about shaping the very course of human history itself. As we peel back the layers of Freemasonry, and as we've seen, this brotherhood is no stranger to wielding influence, whether it be in politics, science, or the arts. But what happens when the secrets and power of Freemasonry collide with the machinery of government? What happens when the quiet whispers of the secret societies find their way into the halls of power? And when governments, aware or unaware, confront the potential sway these secretive organizations might hold? The idea that secret societies like Freemasonry infiltrate governments is not a new one. In fact, it is at the very core of many conspiracy theories that have been passed down through generations. Is Freemasonry just a harmless fraternity, or does it serve as a subtle, yet invisible hand that guides political affairs from the shadows? Does it reach into governments, influence policies, and manipulate the destiny of nations? Or is this just the stuff of paranoia and wild speculation? There's no denying that Freemasonry has had its fair share of members who have risen to positions of power. Presidents, prime ministers, monarchs, and leaders of industry. But how deep does this influence go? And what are governments, both historical and modern, doing to cope with the rising power of these societies? The alleged infiltration, secret handshakes, and silent alliances. One of the most enduring theories is that Freemasonry has found its way into the corridors of power, not as a mere accident, but as a deliberate attempt to control or manipulate political processes. The notion of infiltration speaks to the subtle nature of how these societies operate. They don't need to broadcast their intentions openly, for that would be far too risky. Instead, they thrive in the shadows, recruiting powerful individuals and weaving a web of connections that stretches into the highest offices. Think of it this way. A person who rises to political power doesn't do so alone. Alliances are forged in private and decisions are made in backrooms, sometimes far removed from the gaze of the public eye. It's in these private spaces where loyalties are sworn and favours exchanged that the influence of secret societies allegedly thrives. The Freemasons' initiation and bonds, the handshakes, the oaths, the promises, create unbreakable networks of power. Whether you are a president of a nation, a high-ranking diplomat, or a leading industrial tycoon, your Masonic ties can ensure that certain decisions and policies go in a specific direction. The key to their success lies in secrecy. Many in power have pledged their loyalty to Freemasonry and other secret societies, and it is said that these pledges form the foundation of an invisible government. What better way to guarantee control than to have a network of the most influential people in the world all bound by the same secret, the same ritual? Is it any wonder then that when critical decisions are made, decisions that affect entire countries, they are sometimes driven by an invisible force, one that operates behind closed doors? This brings us to a critical question. Do governments know about this? Is there an awareness of this influence? The answer is a resounding yes, at least in some cases. Governments have not been blind to the growing presence of Freemasonry within their political systems. There are documented cases where Freemasons have been deliberately kept in check by governments, and in some instances even banned outright. Government responses, opposition, control, and the struggle for power. Throughout history, many governments, especially totalitarian regimes, have seen the potential threat posed by secret societies and have moved to eradicate or control them. In the 18th and 19th centuries, during the rise of monarchies in Europe, Freemasonry was seen as a subversive force that could undermine royal authority. In Russia, Tsar Nicholas V took extreme measures to outlaw Freemasonry. He recognized the secretive nature of the organization and feared that it could be used to undermine his reign. The Russian Empire banned Freemasonry in 1822, citing the threat of revolutionary movements taking root within Masonic lodges. In Nazi Germany, Adolf Hitler also targeted Freemasonry. The Nazis, who sought to control every aspect of German life, understood the power of these secret societies and believed that they were working in opposition to the regime. Hitler's regime persecuted Freemasons and attempted to eliminate their influence, along with other groups that were considered to be outside the control of the Nazi Party. Thousands of Freemasons were imprisoned, tortured, and killed in concentration camps. Yet, in more democratic nations, the situation has been a bit more complex. Governments turn a blind eye to the influence of Freemasonry or even embrace it. In countries like the United States, Freemasonry has been intertwined with political life for centuries. It's not just a fringe organization, but has been deeply embedded in the fabric of American culture and politics. It was said that over 13 US presidents were Freemasons, and countless senators, governors, and military officers have held membership in Masonic lodges. The very foundation of the United States, with its emphasis on freedom, equality, and fraternity, aligns with the principles that Freemasonry champions, making it a more symbiotic relationship between government and secret society. But what happens when those in power realize just how far Freemasonry's influence reaches? Is it possible that governments, as some theorists claim, are complicit in allowing the Brotherhood to thrive because they benefit from it? The idea that government and Freemasonry are two sides of the same coin is one that has stirred debate for centuries. Some argue that, far from being enemies, the two entities work hand in hand to ensure the stability of the political and social systems. However, as much as Freemasonry has flourished in democratic nations, there is still an element of suspicion surrounding it. Governments have long been aware that the society's secrecy and influence are not only powerful but potentially dangerous. The great irony, some argue, is that those who hold the keys to power in a society like Freemasonry also control the doors to democracy itself. Does the world of Freemasonry influence how decisions are made in the political arenas, or does it simply offer a meeting ground for those with similar ideals? In the end, the relationship between Freemasonry and government remains a mysterious one. Freemasons might work within governments, but do they control them? Are governments aware of the influence Freemasonry might have, or are they merely tolerating its members? These questions continue to plague political theorists and conspiracy researchers alike as they attempt to draw the line between fact and fiction. What we can say for certain is that Freemasonry remains a force to be reckoned with, both in the corridors of power and on the global stage. Whether you believe in its power or not, there's no denying that it's a fascinating part of history with an influence that refuses to be fully understood or explained. As we look to the future, the question lingers: will Freemasonry continue to play its hidden role in shaping the world's political and social landscape? Or will the mysteries of its past eventually be uncovered, revealing the true extent of its power? And so we find ourselves here, at the edge of the present, with the long road of the past behind us, worn smooth by the footsteps of countless souls. Architects of silence, bearers of symbols, seekers of the unseen. Modern Freemasonry, if you were to seek it today, does not hide in the shadows. Not exactly. It is there if you look. Behind humble doorways in quiet neighborhoods, marked with small square and compass emblems, subtle and still. You might walk past one every day and never notice. No guards, no fanfare, just a building with walls that seem to listen more than they speak. Step inside, if you are permitted, and you will not find sorcery or scheming. You will find men, often older, in suits or ceremonial aprons, talking softly, standing in gentle circles. You'll see handshakes passed down through generations, and rituals that unfold like well-kept poems, half religious, half theatrical, bound by memory. To some it all might seem quaint or curiously anachronistic, but to others it is a sacred rhythm, a link to something older than nations, older even than cathedrals. A fire kept glowing, not for power but for remembrance. Yet the myths linger. They trail behind like candle smoke, stories of underground temples, of coded messages in architecture and banknotes, of silent manipulation behind thrones and congresses. The whispers shift and shimmer, always just out of reach, like something glimpsed through frosted glass, and perhaps that is part of the magic, or the burden. For what is myth but the echo of something half-believed? Today, the Freemasons speak of service, of self-betterment, of fraternity and responsibility in a world that often seems to fray at the edges. They give to charities, sponsor scholarships, visit the sick. They call each other brother, even if they've never met before. In a world of digital coldness, they seek warmth. Not through spectacle, but through quiet ritual and face-to-face fellowship. But the world has changed. Membership in many places is declining. The lodges that once swelled with eager minds now sometimes sit half empty. The younger generations, raised in a different rhythm in the glare of constant screens, often ask, why secrecy? Why tradition? And the Masons answer not with marketing campaigns, but with a slower offering. They say, not all things need to be instant. Not all truths are given. some must be earned. Through silence, through humility, through the steady unfolding of symbols. They say the world is noisy now, always urgent, always hungry. But here in these quiet halls, there is time to reflect, time to speak slowly, time to remember. Still, the question lingers like a thread of night air beneath the door. What now? Is Freemasonry fading or simply transforming? Some believe it will vanish, another relic of a more ceremonial age. Others believe it will change shape, quietly as it always has, slipping into new forms while guarding its ancient heart. Perhaps it will become more transparent, more open, or perhaps it will recede even further, becoming again what it once was, a secret held gently between generations, passed hand to hand like a fragile flame. But here is something to consider as the stars shift overhead and the night folds around us. Maybe Freemasonry has always been less about the organization and more about the yearning to belong to something deeper than oneself, to stand in a circle, shoulder to shoulder with others and feel, even if just for a moment, that the chaos of the world can be ordered. That meaning can be built like a temple, one stone at a time. Maybe the real secret was never the handshakes or the symbols. Maybe it was the silence, the pause between thoughts, the breath before truth. In every age, in every culture, there have been people who seek, who look beyond what is given, who gather in small rooms and whisper questions into the dark, hoping the silence will whisper back. Freemasonry is one such path, not the only one, perhaps not even the oldest, but one shaped by centuries of footsteps, by men and women drawn not to fame or wealth, but to the idea that something sacred lives in mystery. And as long as that hunger remains, that quiet pull toward deeper meaning, the lodges will not vanish. They may change, they may fade from view, but somewhere, someone will still light the candles, still open the ancient book, and still speak the words passed down like lullabies for the soul. And so, here our journey ends. You've walked beside the myths and the history, past marble halls and invisible corridors, through power and persecution, brotherhood and suspicion, and now into the soft hush of modernity. But the story is not really over. It simply sleeps, like the lodges, like the secrets, like a question left at the edge of dreaming. Thank you for walking this path tonight. If you found something here, a thought, a whisper, a question, hold it gently, and if you wish, you can return anytime. For now, I'll leave you with the hush of quiet stone walls, the scent of old books, and the echo of footsteps in sacred halls, until our next late night story. Sleep well, dream deeply, and if you'd like to join us again, like this video, maybe even subscribe, and let the mysteries find you when the world grows quiet. Good night, my friend.